we can now move on to match number 2, which is going to be Alutemu versus FroStee. We've got coming up. As that was only match 1, it might have felt a little bit longer, but that's because we just asked Tyler a ton of questions, which we got some good answers though.
We love Tyler.
I'm pumped, even more pumped now for next week, just to see what the result of this boot camp is. Yeah, I'm hyped.
Jokes aside, that sounds awesome. I'm really glad that the players are putting this in, because it feels to me like a lot of players, they're strong on their own, but last year there were these super powerful practice groups, like these power couples in Hearthstone, like we had with the Dusky Boys, with all the players over there last season, or last year in the HCT system, and that's felt a bit lacking. Players haven't combined their power, but now with the summit at Fino's house, their power will know no limits.
Exactly, but speaking of limits of power, we'll see how these two players get on, because FroStee has had I would say a mixed bag of season, mixed bag of success, mixed bag of deck lists. But I feel like this week he's really brought just a solid lineup. We see them both shielding Priest going up against Alutemu, Warrior banned out on one side, Shaman banned out on the other. I'm ready to get into some more Hearthstone, Derek.
As am I. A double shield on the Priest, though. It's what we've come to expect at this point. We're seeing it more and more, even in the Asia-Pacific region, because I feel, even though Asia-Pacific in the last couple of weeks has caught on to the idea that, okay, Priest is probably the best deck, we should all be bringing this, I feel like they've been behind in the Shield Priest meta.
Shield the best deck.
Exactly. What a rogue idea we're seeing there from these players, despite the fact that rogue is 0% across all of GM again this week. But yeah, I think for FroStee, as you were saying, it feels like it's been a slow but steady increase in his play and play style over Season 2 of Grandmasters. At the start, we saw him sticking with some decks that I was not necessarily in love with. The Murloc Paladin in particular, it felt like he stuck with that for a little bit too long, to be honest. But now I think, even though he's deviating more towards the standard deck lists, it's, I think, in a good direction. From some players like Rivius and Shaxi and Staz, to an extent, we've seen weird deck lists working out pretty well for them. It hasn't really worked out so well for FroStee. I think what his major advantage in Grandmasters is bringing the standard decks, but just outplaying his opponents.
Yeah, and I think when FroStee, although may not be an all-star name in Hearthstone, I think what I think stands out about him is when he puts his mind to, say, a strategy or a deck, he will sit and just practice it until he deems himself good enough. And when he deems that, he plays well. He actually, we've seen FroStee do some pretty good plays and out-strategize his opponents in certain matchups previously in Grandmasters. So I have a lot of respect for FroStee for that. So I'm looking forward to getting into this one, though, as I think we are getting close to just kicking off game number 1. And who do you even favor for this one? Who have you got, Alutemu or FroStee here?
Looking at the deck lists, there's not really all too much different. It is a Druid on Alutemu's side versus a Paladin on FroStee's side, of course. I think the Paladin is honestly pretty well positioned for the most part. I don't mind it against Warrior. I don't mind it against the Priest. There's arguments back and forth about Paladin versus Druid itself.
Upon the just. Do you want me to break that argument? Alutemu's playing Spellword.
Oh, yeah, okay. That probably does pull it slightly into the lead for Alutemu. As I think I would make the argument that Druid in general, if you're playing 2 Ferocious Howls, is favoured anyway. Right. But I think it's minor things. It really does come down to who's playing best, and also who can win the Priest Mirror will make a very big difference in the matchup, of course.
Okay, so game number 1 between Alutemu and FroStee is a Priest Mirror. So this one is going to become fireworks pretty quick. Times out of 10.
Shield tossed for Alutemu. Shield found for Alutemu. Doesn't have much choice in that one. But of course, this is still a pretty premier hand.
Is someone injured?
Even the silence as well. Fantastic top deck to find in this matchup.
Old Cleric on turn 1, though. It's going to feel a little bit dicey.
That is the only reaction to Cleric. I want to just... Okay. Already deviating from the maximum expenditure, which a lot of players would swear by here, is FroStee. And even though FroStee has the makings here of a very powerful hand with the Divine Spirit and Inner Fire being picked up to make 1 big minion, I honestly think even at this point he's just falling too far behind. FroStee, the Inner Fire being picked up for Alutemu means that anything that FroStee plays instantly dies.
Do you think he has to play something, or do you think there's a longer-term plan of saying I have Amit? Maybe if I just hold off Amit.
I think if he could see Alutemu's hand, he would know quite clearly playing stuff does not really work.
I like that play though.
This is the only way that he can have a chance against Alutemu's
I like
hand,
it.
though. Yeah.
That is not an obvious play whatsoever, but because this limits the maximum health from Alutemu's Tolvir, it means that it's just a 3-2 now, so it isn't going to go up in health, so therefore Inner Fire kind of sucks. There's obviously Inner Fire on the Cleric with the hero power as well, but it's still not quite coming up. Alutemu has an answer here, and I think Frosty's face there just kind of summed it up of, okay, he had that. But I think the chance was there for him. I think that was a good play.
I think it was a very, very good play there from FroStee. I wonder about this play from Alutemu because he had 2 lines there. This is one of his plays, of course, in Powered Shield, Heal, and Trade. He also could have gone Self-Silence, Inner Fire, Trade, Heal, which would have left him with a 6-4, obviously without Taunt, as opposed to a 3-4 with Taunt. This play leaves him with with an Inner Fire and a Silence in hand.
Does that work like that?
If you silence it, it goes to a 2-6. It removes all buffs or...
Right, okay.
Right? Because Topsy-Turvy is effectively a buff. It's not a...
Right. I was just... It's just, you know, one of those things where, like, if you flip, then the attack stays the same sometimes. In terms of... It's just one of those weird interactions of, like, if you flipped it, is the health actually just hard-locked now?
I am 100% sure.
But yeah, I trust you. I was just for a second there, I was like... Because historically in Hearthstone, health and attack swapping
gets
really weird sometimes.
Yeah. Especially in Priest, when you've got, like, a minion that's damaged and then you double its health, it's like, well, what is it? Its health...
Life
it's maximum health gone
or
to, yeah.
potential health.
It gets real weird. But quite clearly here for FroStee,
it's not.
It's going to spiral out of control. The Inner Fire here is just quickly just the opening for Alutemu for FroStee to pull back. Unless we see a Cycle. Cycle Bomb is, I think, the real big chance here for FroStee to pull things back. Or that. It's close for FroStee. He just needs like 5 more mana, and then he'd be fine. And for there to be no silence.
Just 5 more mana, Alutemu from no cards or minions and no health, and then it's fine. It's the issue, isn't it? This Priest deck is so streamlined in, like, you know, the mean machine that it is, that it doesn't run recovery tools, really. It doesn't run any backup or anything like that. And unfortunately for FroStee, it's going too fast in the early game that, for example, yesterday, Silvername versus Tice, Silvername, I think, was 1 or 2 extra minions being needed on board to do the OTK fatigue on Tice, because he had the Pyro Circle with all the minions and Cleric on the board. Tice nearly lost that game because of it, but FroStee's not in that position, right? The board isn't wide enough, the mana's not there, the cards aren't there that are required to do that. So Alutemu is not only ahead, but he's safely ahead, I would say.
And if you needed any reminder as to how much respect is paid to Northshire Cleric, this will tell you exactly what you need to know.
6 Demahe.
Yep. And I like this line for FroStee of not playing the minions. I think he's pretty clearly going for the out of Circle of Healing. Because next turn he can go Tolvir, Cleric, Circle of Healing, Divine Spirit, and hope that a 12 health minion can survive. I think already that ship has pretty much sailed though. It's just over at this point.
You have best.
Yep, and there's the concede, and you know, rightly so, and this is the way the Priest Mirror goes, because, like I said, the deck is so streamlined and so linear in what it does, then there aren't any cards, there isn't any AoE, there isn't any, even you look at cards like Mass Dispel would quickly just filtered straight out. You could argue, well, Mass Dispel would be sick in Priest. Yeah, when you're losing.
Yeah.
But you don't play the game to plan to lose, right? You play to plan to win, which is why the mirrors look so explosive from early game there. But Alutemu takes it versus FroStee. 1-0 so far. We're going to find out if that's going to be a 2-0 or not after the break.
Welcome to the Tombs of Terror. My name is Regis Jackson, and I'm going to be your guide through this adventure. If you didn't know, the Tombs of Terror are available to play right now, starting with Wing 1, the Lost City of Tolvir. But before you enter, be warned, there are some terrifying things in the Tombs of Terror, and you might just need my help.
This city is ours.
Not only are Plague Lords running rampant, but there's a twist. A terrifying twist. And it's Murlocs. That's right, Murlocs are everywhere. The twist for this wing is the Plague of Murlocs, which means Murlocs have invaded each deck. Anytime you draw the surprise Murlocs card from your deck, you're going to be summoning a random amount of Murlocs, which can be really helpful, but so will the opposing bosses. So things can out of control really quickly. But thankfully, I know a guy. It's my cousin, Reno Jackson, and I think he can help. Now, Reno is a proven adventurer, but he'll still need some tools and allies if he's going to succeed in this one. The first thing he'll need is a signature treasure. There are 6 treasures to choose from, but you'll have to unlock some of them by completing tasks in the Tombs of Terror. But for starters, Reno's lucky hat will serve you just fine, enabling you to do some crazy stuff with spell damage and also getting some stats onto the board early in the game. But once you've unlocked it, my favorite treasure for this wing is the Gatling Wand. This is an incredible way to remove your opponent's minions from the board, which makes it perfect for the Lost City. Reno will also encounter some treasures along the way, and I've identified a few that'll really help in this wing. Up first is Canopic Jars, and this is a wonderful way to turn all these free Murlocs you'll be summoning onto the board into incredible legendary minions instead, which can be swingy enough to win you games fast or just help you recover a board state late in the game. I also love the Titanic Ring, which gives your minions +1 health and taunt, which when you're summoning this many minions, it's a lot more value than normal. So now that you've got Reno on your side, the next thing you need to know are the bosses. There are lots and lots of bosses on your way to defeating the Plague Lord, but I've got some tips about the biggest and scariest ones. The first is the Sinkhole and its horrifying hero power, which if you're not careful will rapidly destroy your entire deck, leaving you without enough resources to overcome it. That means you need to beat it quickly. You should also be wary of General Husam, who gives all of his minions rush by default. He might overwhelm you before you have a chance to kill him. And then finally, we can't forget about the Plague Lord itself, a 3-part boss with 300 health. And although that might seem daunting, don't forget, if you're defeated the first time, you can come back in to the Tombs of Terror, and the Plague Lord will be at the health you left it at. Knowing its hero powers ahead of time can help. The first requires you to kill enough Murlocs to actually damage the boss. The second will summon Scaly Golems, which buff all Murlocs on board, making trades very interesting and often difficult. And then finally, once you've pushed it past 100 health, be careful, the Plague Lord will be able to remove all minions from the board after discounting its hero power sufficiently. Now, keep in mind that discount does not stick through multiple uses, so you can reload boards somewhat safely, but you still have to be mindful of running out of minions before you can kill the boss. Okay, folks, I think that's everything you need to know to safely navigate the lost city of Tol'vir. But stay tuned. My friend Sir Regis Murgleton might have some tips for future wings in the Tombs of Terror.
We are back and ready to get into game number 2 between Alutemu and FroStee, and it's so far a day, I would argue, of just Priest, as is the normal way. It had a large impact, obviously, in match number 1, and it's already had a large impact on this one, because in the mirror, Alutemu took it, and again, I actually can't remember the last time I saw a close Priest mirror. I feel like it is just one way or the other a lot of the time, whereas now I think we're going in with no Priests, as it's going to be Shaman versus Paladin.
That's right, we're slowly transitioning from Grandmasters into the Spanish Inquisition, because whenever you think you've seen enough Priests, there's just another one just around the corner.
Okay, didn't expect that joke, but okay, I liked it.
Nobody expects it.
It's just a fact from like Hearthstone and doing Priest. Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah, slightly different experience, but still painful on both sides when you're facing him down. It's got to be said.
That's very true.
I mean, that priest mirror for FroStee, there are arguments that could be made. Maybe like he could have done different things. Obviously,
right?
It's
Would
just
have
I
made
don't
a
think they would
difference.
have made the win. And honestly, I think as you highlighted, the topsy-turvy play probably his best bet at winning the game.
I think so. I think so because then if there's no buffs, you Tolvair into Tolvair.
That's right.
And then arguably you can see how good or bad this is. But you only have a cleric to deal with, which
It's possible.
It's doable.
In some worlds, yeah.
Because honestly, like there's worlds where priest has just like circle, pyro, and that's the rest of the hand, which isn't enough on its own to do much. But anyway, that is in the past. We live in the present. As Alutemu are going to be on the Shaman on the top, going against FroStee's Paladin, and that High Priest the Call is actually a pretty nice pickup. Not only for its battle cry, which I think is more of a sideways potential benefit in some matchups, to actually generally the 3-mana 3/4. It's one of the few minions in the deck that does something on board, which I think is very good against Battlecry Shaman.
I have to be honest, when I first saw people keeping High Priest the Call in the mulligan, I was actually kind of surprised because I understand you want the effect to go off as soon as possible so that you can start getting the value off of Flash of Light or True Silver Champion or whatever. But my initial thought was, okay, that's nice, but I'd rather have Crystology. I'd rather have the draw cards early on. But now that I see more and more players doing it, I'm kind of coming to the conclusion that, fine, you're probably right. It keeps you board control, and the healing is actually massive.
For me, I feel like it 1 versus 3 sometimes against Shaman's early minions, which is just good. Like, you just don't want... What it does, it stops you having to use board players as early, which I think is, when time is basically the whole deck, is very important. Because if this kills 1 to 2 minions, maybe it ends up that you don't have to clear on turn 5 or 6. You clear on turn 7 or 8. And when, literally a whole turn is the world of difference in Paladin.
And now for FroStee, of course, the Flash of Light, all this good stuff starting to compound to gain him that extra healing. Like you said, I agree it is a side benefit, but it's a pretty strong side benefit.
Oh yeah, I'm just talking about sometimes you play it and you take so much damage before you heal anyway, it doesn't matter.
Fair point.
But it's more of just, oh well, now actually Flash of Light actually puts you past 30 health, which is insane. There's a reason there are only a few decks in the game that can go past 30, because if they all could, it would be busted in some classes.
Yeah, it would.
Like, if Paladin could reliably go past 30, it'd just be like, oh, healing cards can wait for it.
Pretty insane.
Aggro becomes a million times worse. And now already, this is the call, just kind of 1v3s at this point. If trades go certain ways, of course. Would you actually like to
play with fire?
Would I like to see this play? I think so.
I think if I was FroStee, I would have healed the Thakal.
You trade, then heal the Thakal. So
it's a 3/3 instead of a 3/1, but you have
it's
few less health. Who cares?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You don't think?
Yeah.
Because this dies to Elemental.
Yeah, it's very weak to Sandstorm.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that was probably slightly better.
Just a small thing, but the whole idea, like I said, of the call is it trades versus the board. So you want it to keep trading. And the health to face is, I think, very middling in terms of its effect.
I think later on it can actually become very important, but I still agree it was more important to have the minion bigger.
You can drill it down very simply. What actually saves you more health? The call trading to more minions,
that's the thing,
or the health you've gained from the Flash of Light to face.
Yeah.
Now though, FroStee with one of those rare dead Paladin hands. Like, there's no card draw. Like, ooh.
This hand is garbage right now.
This happens so little.
The deck's
Brilliance knows no bounds.
Well, another whiff.
Oh man, what do you even do here?
This is where
trade.
I think you play Zephyrus.
You just throw it down, go all face.
Or what about trade the Pyro off and just play Kangor.
I hate
Maybe.
I hate
what,
everything.
What about trade Kangor?
Kangor hero.
It sets up for the potential for the future because Kangor probably doesn't die, and then if you draw a healing spell or something, you gain in health, right? Which you gain a lot of health, which is fun.
I tell you, one thing I'd really like to have here is a 3 health High Priest in the car.
Told you.
Yeah.
Just saying. This board is kind of annoying though, isn't it?
Float like
I mean, there is obviously the mutate, which is very powerful, but this Kangor is frustrating because Alutemu was just thinking, can't really kill it. If he has healing stuff next turn or whatever, is annoying. If it's going to get trades, it's going to be annoying. That's a good card.
That's pretty good. That's also a pretty good card.
Yeah,
though.
there we go.
This hand goes from 0 to hero like that.
I'm guessing trade, subdue.
I hope you like my invention.
Could you just leave it for a turn? Spend your mana on other stuff?
Is there a bad outcome if you leave it? I guess
I
not.
don't think so. They can't really duplicate it in any way,
I
right?
hope you like my invention.
Yeah. Okay, this is better. I was thinking of mana usage, but obviously the Novice Engineer's drawing changed that because FroStee could use all of his
That's
mana. Yeah, there we go. Frosty's back in the game now. Now that he's actually managed to draw one of his card draw engines, that leads into all of the others.
All of the others, yeah. Man, Crystal Smith Kangor is
I hope
such
you
a
like my
strong card.
invention.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually insane how not overstated, but just how much good stuff is piled into a 2-mana card.
It's like one of those potentially very powerful cards.
Yes.
It's not powerful every single game you play it,
Right.
but its potential is off the charts.
Exactly, yeah. And you don't even have to do much to get it to the giga powerful level.
I'm one of the decks where, have you ever had decks where you wish the archetype was a bit more powerful because it was fun to play?
Yes, lots of those decks.
So like, for example, when I think right after Rastakan's Rumble, Heal Paladin, where you could play the 4-mana 8/8 because they buffed to 4/4 to 8/8, and then
That card's
Shivala, the Spellstone, which made like 2-mana 5/5.
Oh, of course, Spellstone's still in the game.
The Spirit as well. I played that deck and had a positive win rate, but I just knew it wasn't good enough. I had a positive win rate because I was playing a weird deck no one could play around. And honestly, like, yeah, Kangor was pretty cute.
It
And
really
also,
was.
We're playing my favourite Hearthstone mode, I wish was in the game. Hearthstone mode.
Turbo Hearthstone. FroStee just makes honestly, I think a panic decision. But yes, I think you just do this right because he didn't have Equality or Shrink Ray in hand. So you need more time.
I guess the only other option he would have had was a consideration for a timeout.
Yeah.
But
maybe that was actually better. That probably was actually quite a lot better here.
Yeah, I agree. Because
Timeout, heal. Yeah.
So the reason timeout, to explain why it was better, was there is so much power on the board that FroStee can't deal with. My point of just saying he can't deal with it. So yeah, he kills an 8/8, well there's a 5/5 and a 7/7 on the board, which means that timeout would have saved him all of that. It means he wouldn't have had to necessarily do that trade and do the subdue, and then he had a whole extra turn to draw.
Yeah, this turn was actually horrible. I think for FroStee, I really didn't like this. And like I said, it was a panic decision. Pretty sure it was the wrong decision to make, though.
If there was just an 8/8 and some 1/1s and 2/2s on the board,
Fine.
I don't mind it.
Yeah,
But look at this
absolutely.
return swing. Like, timeout would have saved him so much health.
Yeah.
And it's the base rule of taking time out from a level 1 play to a level 2 play is at level 1, you save it to not die so you can Shivala. But at level 2, it effectively gives you an additional turn and it reduces your damage on board by millions, it feels like sometimes.
It's a rough spot, and it's kind of difficult for me to know how harsh to be for FroStee. I think I'm often a little bit more lenient on him because I really like FroStee. I get along with him very well, but I don't know. I do strongly disagree with that play. Like you said, for all
There is little time.
The benefit now, if we go, the plays happened, so if we work out what FroStee's plan is now, he does have 2 timeouts,
Of course.
and card draw, and Zephyrus, so FroStee is not just lost, it's just he
Far
could have
from
put
it.
himself in a little bit of a more comfortable position. and not giving Alutemu a good turn, which I feel like this turn was.
That's it. And I think the break point that you want to stay out of versus Shaman is the point at which they don't care if you clear their board because they have so much burst from hand. And I think FroStee is at 15 health, not necessarily there quite
He's one
yet.
turn away from there, though.
He's getting dangerously close if he doesn't find a strong board clear, which now he doesn't have. If he goes Shrink Ray, Alutemu says, brilliant, I'll take the, what, 5 damage that you allow me there?
I want timeout from FroStee right now if he wants to progress here. I think timeout, and then there's what, 4, 5, 7. He can Hammer of Wrath, he could Flash of Light instead. You just want timeout, draw cards. Timeout again, draw cards, and try and win. Or try and at least get to a good board play that actually works.
Hammer of Wrath, True Silver is never an option. Shrink Ray, trade Flash of Light is like okay, but I think you want to save it for when you have an activator.
Right.
Yeah.
I like this is maybe even FroStee going in this situation earlier. I should have timeout, which means it's still correct to do so.
Absolutely. You don't make a worse play now because you
Feel embarrassed
messed
about
up.
before,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
That's actually worse than messing
It's
up.
just doubling down. Yeah, and that's a mistake I do far too often.
Yeah.
One mistake, concede. Shame concede every time.
There's a quote in the anime I'm watching right now, which I do like and would apply to life.
Yeah.
It's like one of the characters is just like, there's no problem, there's no issue with being weak, right? The issue is choosing to stay weak is the problem, and it's like it's similar to
Wise
this where
words.
like there's no issue if you mess up, you've messed up, it's done.
Yeah.
But if you play worse and continue to do bad things because you messed up, then that's way worse in my opinion.
I feel like that line has been in every anime ever made. Like,
Oh,
that's
probably. Yeah, I've
the
no doubt.
core theme of every single one.
That's why I like it so much.
That's why I hate it, because I make a point of choosing to stay weak. We Browns are famous stay weakers.
I get that reference. It was a reference, right?
A what?
It's a reference to something?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, it kind of is.
My surname is Brown,
Have
by
you
the
seen
way.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yes.
There is little
So it's
time.
like Boyle. It's like the Boyles.
Oh,
like you're always, you know,
right,
like
right,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
weak, the alphas look after you. Sort of the idea.
The episode with all the boils is a classic.
Derek, I love you.
Sorry, what was that? Thanks, buddy.
I was actually referencing the clip from TJ and Frodan talking about Zoo.
I love Zoo too. There we go.
There you go. That's what timeout and some sort of delayed turns
Yeah.
buys, and this is what you want to do with Holy Wrath Paladin. So we're going to see FroStee almost certainly clear up the board here. Keeps hold of the Pyromancer to do it in the right order. Gain health, draw cards. Now we're getting somewhere, but he's getting somewhere at a slightly lower life total than you could argue he could have been at, and also with 1 less timeout, 2 less Flash of Light. So I'm not saying FroStee's bad for using those cards. It's just with this deck, it's almost solitaire, where you say, okay, this card will get me here, this card will get me there. Does that get me to my end game of, you could argue, a almost guaranteed win condition?
Gets a little bit messier though when you start factoring the amount of damage that Alutemu can push from hand. 12 on this turn, if he desired, with another 6 on the following turn, I guess, from Shudderwalk.
I think I like it as well.
Just throw them both down. I guess there's not much else, is there?
I guess you could go the other way, do one and then evolve, and then do another one, and then Lackey to make
Fair.
waves
Fair.
of minions. Because Hero Power and the Faceless Lackey with a Life Drinker, good turn.
Yeah.
Hero Power, Life Drinker, double evolve, 6-drop, good turn. So I think maybe on second thought, Alutemu should just go for waves of minions and make FroStee think about having to play. I like it.
There is no
Yeah, Alutemu agrees with you.
Oh, he's gonna actually go a little bit heavier. Well, what about Coin Plague? Is that ever that bad? Is it just okay? Because he has a board of
Pyromancer, which is
one. He has
pretty
a
bad,
board
but-
of 1 health
Yeah.
versus a Pyro.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He probably actually wants to save the coin to go Shudderwalk, is his thinking at this point. To go
Okay.
Hero Power coin Shudderwalk?
Yeah,
You're on board?
I'll concede to that one. I wasn't overly precious about the Murlocs. I just thought when you look at it that turn,
Yeah.
board full of 1 health. Oh, a Pyromancer, it feels bad, but Coin Shoulda Walk probably gets more done in general.
Which is, I think, again, I didn't even realize this, another reason why Alutemu did not want to go double life drink on this turn, because he's setting up for a 2-turn play of surprise 12 damage.
I honestly think together, which you can argue is our jobs, we just worked through the mindset of the average player on that turn, right? You go, oh wait, I could just burst a ton of damage and sell Shoulda Walk.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I could actually just go wide and make multiple waves. Oh
But wait, there's more.
Yeah. Coin Shoulda Walk, get him.
It's just basic maths. 2 casters is roughly equivalent to 1 player. Oh, I guess apparently not even, because he's just throwing down the Shuttle Walk.
Well, now I'm just confused, Aaron.
Yeah. Does he not want to get the extra life drinker down and then go...
My jaws that bite, my claws that catch.
Like, even on this turn, if he just goes Hero Power quick.
Yeah, if he's going to Shoulda Walk at all, I think you just may as well Hero Power, right?
Of course it's the right
Actually,
guess,
you may
like-
as well Coin, apologies.
Yeah.
I don't know what Coin opens up for him reliably, because honestly, post Shoulda Walk, your hand is just a load of random stuff. So you can't be like, I'm saving Coin for X.
Okay, well, it works out reasonably well for him. I agree with you. I get the thing that he's saying in that Shuttlewalk gives him a hand full of lackeys anyway, so that part of it is not getting him an extra benefit. But the extra 6 damage it could potentially afford him. I think the extra 4 upgrades it gives him, because he's played a boatload of witchy lackeys this game.
Honestly, I'm with you, because my point was, because his hand's just full of randomness, you can't say, oh, the coin's going to be for this. If you don't have a strong plan for the coin, yeah, sometimes it works out really well, but most of the time you just like randomly coin something. Yeah, big bad Archmage. What was that? Okay.
Does his job. Makes a big boy.
His whole board is gone though.
Oh, and now for Alutemu, the Wasp in hand just makes this so much damage he can deliver. We're looking at 12 next turn easily. Yeah, of course.
If he doesn't heal.
Which means FroStee with...
Hello?
Okay, you know, he has lines to stay alive in the game. We're looking at Equality, Consecrate, Shavala, Shuffle. Strong play, keeps him alive. Shavala on the board.
Is he going to do it?
I don't really know why you... I think you just do it on this turn, or you go timeout. Okay, I'll definitely hear out an argument for timeout on this turn when there's this much pressure. But if you are going for the clear line, I think I just like getting the Shavala on board more than anything else.
What? I think he should... Yes, I like timeout actually.
Okay. What's he doing with the rest of the mana though, is the question. Like, timeout pass on 10 mana feels
But he doesn't...
horrendous.
He doesn't need to do anything else, right? Because look at his hand. I mean, what he could do is consecrate face, if he really wanted to. Just to put some damage there and set up potentially for lethal over 2 turns. But
Right.
if he's gonna consecrate the turn after as well, because it gets him more likely to be able to swing, but it's tough. I think the frustration for FroStee is there's 3 cards left and Zephyrus isn't active.
Yeah.
What?
Because he could have had a good Zephyrus turn, right?
Are there any cards you want to bounce back here? No. And like bouncing back the life drinker doesn't really do anything. It does literally nothing.
I think he just passes, right?
Are there any cards you want to get rid of? Not really. Hand space isn't too much of an issue.
Shoulda Walk's gone, so loading battle
Shoulda Walk's
cries
gone.
into Shoulda Walk doesn't matter.
That's it.
I think you just pass. Like,
You never play...
don't want Faceless.
I don't want Faceless.
If there was an
either.
Evolve, you could be like, right, what good Evolves can I get? And a 4-drop into Cairn, for example. But there is... So, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'd rather keep the
These minions are good.
the Bog Slosher in hand to bounce back a Wasp or a Life Drinker. Sure. Mind Control deck is useless.
I'm completely indifferent to this play, because it's never going to get a value effect anyway.
I've never felt middle of my life. I feel nothing. Oh, now I feel good. I like that from Alutemu's side. Good job. It's pretty rough, actually. It does mean that on this turn, Equality, Consecration, Shavala does not clear the board. That's actually huge.
Hello? Hello?
Right?
He can Equality Shivala into the big bad, swing weapon into the
Oh, okay.
high main,
Okay.
and conk.
Means he has to take 6.
It does. It heals for a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely means he has to take damage. He can do it the other way, leave a 2/2 up, and take
Probably
7.
slightly better.
Oh, sorry, there's a 3-1 as well.
Yeah. That's
Completely forgot about that, honestly. Okay, he leaves 2 2/2s up.
And this is obviously a very poor outcome for FroStee. On average, the big bad Archmage does not give Savannah high main, or Ken, I guess, would have been another bad outcome. But even that, the Shivala could have rushed it.
He should swing face, right?
To set up for a potential just go for lethal next turn.
Yes, but also he has lethal with the Zephyr's turn. Almost all the time, right? I guess if Life Drinker goes off twice, he heals 6. Okay, he can't then, never mind.
Yeah.
I was thinking, is that just the health gain this turn better than the, like...
Yeah, I see your point.
Than the setup perfect lethal turn.
Yeah.
But I guess Zephyrus only does 4, doesn't it? So and the Hero Power Life Drink actually gets him 2 full health, so never mind.
So, we could be looking at a Plague of Murlocs, I guess, on this turn. If Alutemu doesn't want to sink damage into the Shivala. This is a setup for Plague of Murlocs as well.
It's got to be the Murloc Massacre turn.
Odds on War Leader and 4 Bluegills.
There is little time.
If I was FroStee, it happened.
Oh, okay. And then you bounce back the tasty fin, make more bullets.
It's hot.
I think so.
Apparently so.
Altemu's like...
Oh, this allows him to play the Wasp in the same turn. Okay. But the problem is that if he stuck a lackey on the board, he could have gone Hero Power Wasp, Bog Slosher, Coin Wasp for 11 mana on the following turn, which was maybe more valuable. But I guess he wants to fit in the Life Drinker next turn
And
as
he
well.
wanted to probably roll a taunt.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Fair enough.
FroStee goes for it.
Wait, he doesn't have
Oh.
doesn't have Holy Wrath in hand.
Oh, it's 1 mana, right?
Yeah, it's just
Well,
all a little off.
does it depend on... Oh, it's double Holy Wrath!
Has he not played one yet? No, he
I
hasn't,
don't
right?
know.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because he could just lens, hope to whatever the 2 cards are, Wrath is
I think
lower,
you're
so then you
right,
can do
yeah.
the whole turn. It's double Holy Wrath, right? So just draw him a Holy Wrath, and then he
Hello?
loses.
Hello?
No,
Hello?
Oh, no,
because
Zephyrus.
Yes.
Zephyrus Nova.
Zephyrus Nova.
Hello?
And that's the game.
Oh. What?
If it offers it in here.
Oh, who knows with Zephyrus this weekend? It has to. It's a full board. Yeah. So you do Nova though. You Nova.
100% pick Nova here. It's not even close. And then you have a
fix
lock
it.
win.
Yes, because there is no
They
way.
can't play anything.
So maybe that was a point for Alutemu not to fill the board. Did he need to fill the board last turn?
No. And this is the punish.
He didn't need to fill the board, right?
Yeah. Would he have had lethal this turn if he hadn't? If he'd kept the Wasp in hand and had had more board space, we could have seen Hero Power Wasp, Bog Slosher, Coin Wasp. Yeah.
Yeah, but even beside that, he would have had thingy, right? He would have just had Lackey, Hero Power, Life Drinker.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that,
yeah.
You don't even need
That
anything to
does it
live.
too.
It's
Yeah.
just literally from hand. Wow. FroStee.
It may have just been a throw there. from Alutemu.
FroStee, you can argue, was unlucky with double Holy Wrath being the last, like messing him up with the Zephyrus not being active for literally all game. But I don't think Alutemu needed to fill the board there because he would have been on. Okay.
It gets so complicated.
So there's
man,
multiple
doesn't it?
levels because he played Elemental, so he was overloaded.
Yeah.
So then he couldn't have done the Life Drinker Wasp turn. But he also used Coin that turn. So Coin would have negated the overload.
Right. And
so he would have had enough mana.
well, right, but the thing is, we're factoring in the damage that Wasp did on the turn he played it.
Oh, true.
Right. So if he hadn't,
Oh, what would he? So
it would have been at 17 health because he was at 11, right?
right.
And at that point, Wasp and Life Drinker does not
Was
deliver
been
lethal.
enough, right?
So it's not as simple. It's nowhere near as simple as a straight throw from Alutemu, actually.
Okay, so then the difference is not necessarily lethal, but could he have healed outside
That's
of the
that's
damage?
the question.
Because also bear in mind that if Zephyrus comes down and Novas
It's
and you
not
heal to
giving
full,
Soulfire.
yeah, it can't give him Soulfire for the extra damage, and you arguably survive on 1 health.
Yes.
So then you go back to saying in some weird circumstances, does Alutemu not hero power with the faceless lackey?
Right.
And just flat faceless lackey,
yeah.
then hero power and do whatever you wanted to do. And that is where things start getting very much way more intricate, of course, because it's the balance between he wouldn't have set up lethal because we're being stupid and factoring in damage, obviously. So we're dumb, I agree. But he could have factored in healing.
Right.
Which is very important.
That's the thing, is even if the line didn't win him the game, it gave him a shot to win the game from there on in. And obviously, FroStee can adapt from that point on.
Yes,
if it's not Frost Nova, maybe he goes for board clear, maybe he goes for healing. I don't even know what else.
We spread out into the multiverse then and try and work out what happened. But regardless, I think there was...
What a game.
I think there were intricate and off plays for both players.
Yeah.
I think Alutemu maybe could have seen the future a little bit with that play and said, well, he's drawn... I know what cards he has left.
Yeah.
It means Zephyrus Nova is... active, right? And he saw the weapon was equipped, of course. So FroStee did have a few hiccups himself. I think FroStee did not play that matchup to the best of his ability.
I agree
but
with
still, 1-1, which means we are going to be going to game number 3. All on the line for this one, and FroStee really wants this win. FroStee's fighting for a spot in top 4.
That's right, and I think he's got a pretty good position for himself to do so. It's a weird thing that it comes down to, in that even though there's so many Priest mirrors here in the best of 3 Grandmasters that we have at the moment, it's often the least important of the matches, because whoever loses with their Priest can then just queue it up afterwards, and they will usually be getting a win anyway, which is why here for FroStee, even though he lost the Priest mirror, it was much more important, I believe, that he won the Paladin versus Shaman, because now he's still got his Priest up against either Druid or Shaman from Alutemu, both of which, in my opinion, are like 60% matchups, I think it's fair to say, for the Priest, arguably more.
It's like, if you remember back in old Conquest days, it was always, oh, well, they got to win with this deck, but the opponent's lineup targets this deck.
It's the one weak deck.
Yeah, well, basically, it's kind of flipped, where every deck's the weak deck versus Priest. It's literally, Priest gets the win, it's all the other decks that matter.
Wow, FroStee in this situation has the goods. But Alutemu, with his 1-card tech of Plague of Murlocs,
In the light's name.
maybe has what it takes to swing this back? Maybe? I don't know. The rest of his hand sucks. This is not looking good for Alutemu.
Does he just play this?
Yike. No. No. I hate
passes? So why do you hate it? Because outside of a Tolve or a heal buff, it can contest, right? I'm saying, are you desperate enough? Are you desperate enough to just play something?
There is little time.
Because this could be a 1-1, which arguably is worse.
He doesn't know how bad FroStee. He doesn't know how good FroStee's hand is. However, I think it's like it's better to just. Yeah. I don't know why I think it's horrible. I just know that I think it's horrible.
Do you think Totem is horrible?
Job's done.
It worked out horrendously here, of course. I think I could possibly just ended up passing this straight up. Yeah.
He's taking the position of a man who is against a priest.
Okay, you probably play that and hope to hit Kobold. Because I think Plague of Murlocs here, it's just so rough, man. So rough.
That was a good outcome, though.
It was.
They were all low health minions. There was none of the 4 health, none of the 3 health. That's a pretty big deal.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying it was perfect, but it's a pretty big deal.
And FroStee far from an auto-win situation now, which I guess speaks to Alutemu's good play.
Also, as well, it kind of maybe this play was great because it sets up MC tech.
Yeah.
Can FroStee just pass?
Just
not really.
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe it was.
Priest card. Was this good? I don't know.
I think you just develop here as FroStee, right? I don't care if they MC tech one of my tiny minions.
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree. I think you do. I'm just saying this is giving Alutemu some level of game, right? Like
Agreed.
something to actually do. And for all now, maybe Alutemu just grabs that pyro and things continue.
Considering how FroStee had pretty much the Omega nuts
Yeah.
in this game, this is
It's something.
closer
it's something.
than it should be, yeah.
Engaging TC.
Another battle cry again. We've got to keep our eye on the elemental,
Yeah.
because as soon as the elemental's live, again the game gets a bit spicier.
Pretty much the worst steal there for round.
Yes.
Which kind of sucks, because he could have actually got use out of the Tide Caller as well by buffing up its attack, weirdly enough. It's now on FroStee to try and swing things back in his favor. And with no minions having died for him so far, he can dictate what Psycho Pomp resurrects. It's just, everything's kind of bad.
I don't think he plays.
Yeah. I think you're right.
It's an acolyte and a hero power there.
I wonder if it's actually ever just Cleric Blade Master instead of Cleric Heal to get the most stuff on board. Trade. Go for a double trade with your low health minions into the MC tech instead to keep your Pyromancer a bit healthier.
If you trade in certain ways, Cleric could get you circled as well with the heal, which would be pretty sick.
Yeah,
Is
good
someone
point.
injured?
Do this now. I like this.
Okay. I don't hate playing the heal over the blade.
In the light's name.
Although, yeah, I think I definitely would have played this. I just wanted more stats. I'm afraid of falling behind, and I think it's very unlikely that much of your stuff dies at all. But I suppose this does play around Sandstorm, which is the best card for Alutemu at the moment. So fair enough. And it is pretty much all on Alutemu to now to find maybe an Ethereal Lackey to get, I don't know, whatever, Lightning Storm, Hagatha's scheme, something.
Even now, a little bit annoying here, but Alutemu has 2 more lackeys he can play. He can buff health, give it taunt to set up for that hero power Sandstorm.
It's Summit.
I wonder. It's hot.
I can give that Taunt, if not Divine Shield.
You'd rather give it 1 health though.
Yeah, sure.
So there's just more minions to deal with for FroStee.
There is little time.
I guess.
What to do?
Basically, no matter what happens for Alutemu here, it's just a ticking time bomb until FroStee finds either Netheset or Circle of Healing now.
One activator away from his quest being finished. But that is a spell.
Trade away the 2/1 Divine Spirit on
Yeah.
whatever,
Do you
doesn't
not
really matter.
Do you not want to heal first? Maybe throwing all in.
Fair.
I like it. Just
Yeah,
why
yeah,
not,
yeah.
right? Why not?
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
because if that's a powered shield, then you're like, oh, okay, you know. It's a playable spell in any way your turn changes.
Yes, I agree. This is better. Okay.
I like this. Go down to 3 minions just in case. Because Alutemu's running 2 MC techs, so yeah, I like this. This is now FroStee saying, back to priest cards.
And especially as FroStee, of course, has one Samdi to follow up as well.
It's like Alutemu
He's just got to get rolling right
isn't
now.
in the worst spot I've ever seen.
He's not.
He's not dead yet, which is normally not the case for me when
Yeah.
I play Shaman versus
Yeah,
Priest.
yeah. If he can find an Ethereal Lackey into Earthquake,
And what if he just plays champ now? Get your hero power active for next turn. Hero power elemental might do some work after the trades after the
maybe,
champ.
yeah. I'm just wondering if Alutemu's in a bad enough spot to the point where his only realistic win condition is getting an Ethereal Lackey into some kind of a board clip. Because this is disaster time for him.
It is. I just like if he uses his turn just playing Toto. Okay,
There
he's
is
gonna
little time.
does this. He should hero power first. I'm just thinking, if he plays the evil totem, doesn't get a good lackey, he's like almost done a whole turn on that. When he could have a 1-1 and a 5-5,
Yeah.
like it's not horrible.
I think
he's going to do the triple 2.
He was just as undecided as I was.
Yeah.
Because
I see this. You know.
yeah, it kills off the light ward, which is good. Maybe it gives you the absolute dream scenario. Because I think on average, it obviously doesn't give Ethereal, but on average, he's not winning the game. Something spectacular has to happen.
Yeah, and I don't mind this. I think I would have played champ, but I don't.
I wouldn't.
I've not got a strong feeling either way.
Yeah. FroStee is here still continuing to prioritize draw over development, which I guess is fine for the most part. Like, he's still putting stuff on the board, taking value trades, but I think at a certain point you just need to start being a little bit careful about not putting raw attack power on the board in the form of something like a Blade Master.
Right now he could have. Yeah, now he just wants to cycle a lot, doesn't he? Does he
Yeah,
need
I'm
to
fine.
this turn?
What are you looking at instead? Cycle or Blade?
Pain speak to me.
Okay, so the problem here is if you ever shield this turn, then you feel maybe forced to play Acolyte.
Yeah.
So it's an extra card draw. But I was honestly wondering whether it's just like a massive shield. But still draw 2 cards, you still clear off most of his board, you can still use the hero power. Obviously never set fantastic outcome. But just as a surface, it kind of goes both ways between what you would want to do and what FroStee wants to do, right? You draw and play big.
FroStee are wondering if it's ever worth going Topsy Circle just to draw the cards now, just in the case
Float like
was
a butterfly.
second mind control tech into stealing the
like a
exact
bee.
cleric. I think that's the correct answer. Nah, I'll wait. I can get better use out of these cards next turn, and I think we can quite clearly see with Topsy Circle probably just finds lethal. Just from drawing 6-7 cards in a turn. Too many cards really is the problem. Okay, let's just start doing stuff, right?
What about throw the Acolyte?
Trading the Acolyte, yeah, I like that first step. Topsy something? Or would you go for Inner Fire first? It's tough.
I must consider.
I would just trade in the Acolyte, Topsy whatever, the
Okay, well,
hot shot.
regardless, I think FroStee needs to do something
He's
right
gotta stop
now.
moving, he's gotta stop moving.
Because
This
this
is
is
fine.
halfway through his turn.
Sure, I don't mind this at all.
He's not got time to play Circle now.
He does. He's still fine.
You think he's got time to play Circle?
Yes.
Still think he's got time to play
if
Circle?
he's moving really quickly.
That's what I'm saying.
If
Like,
he's moving really quickly.
he's not though, so he can't play Circle now.
Sure, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. He's still miles quickly.
I'll make it. Animations exist.
Play stuff. Play your Blade Master, whatever. Yeah.
Well played.
I think that's got it. Yeah.
Right, 1-0 for him. Wait, did he not
And he
attack
missed
for the
it.
2-3?
You win
Well,
this one.
didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But again, I want things fast.
I did.
FroStee, the relief of the win. Oh, that was close.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, okay. It wasn't close in terms of the over, if you look at the macro level of the game. But that turn looked like it could have gone every kind of which way wrong for FroStee there. Whereas I think overall, again, not the cleanest series. But you know what? To get points on the board doesn't have to be clean. You have to just win.
That's it. And it was really a perfect showcase of something we've been talking about all season in Hearthstone Grandmasters. So when you're presented with an incredibly difficult turn, as is so often the case with Priest and Paladin, what is your priority? Is it finding the optimal, perfect 100% supercomputer play? Or is it just making a good enough turn to win the game? And FroStee was presented with many of those decisions throughout the game.
Yeah.
When Nosdormu hit the board, he made what we can both agree, I think, was the wrong play, but it was a play that didn't instantly lose him the game. He just panicked, saw the subdue, went, go for it, even though the better play was probably time out and say, okay, you have 15 seconds as well now.
Enjoy your turn
What are
of
you going to
weirdness.
do?
It's like, I've got 15 seconds, but I can't do damage, but I've got tons of big minions.
Yeah.
Ah, what a weird conundrum to be in. But yeah, I think I mean, we'll hopefully be able to speak to FroStee in a minute, but I think he probably won't be happy with his play. But again, however many people say, "Oh, I'd rather play better and not win than play worse and win," I just don't see it. I'd rather just win, even though if it's scrappy, like you winning equals like good things happening. Obviously, you'd rather play well and win,
Of course.
But I think, especially at this stage and how serious it is for all these Grandmasters, you need those points on the board. And as long as nothing goes terribly wrong, as long as you get there, you're probably okay with it.
That's it. And it's kind of an arbitrary mark that we make in saying what is good enough from these players. I have to imagine FroStee will look back on that and say, that was not good enough for him.
Right.
For
No,
what he
I
knows
would agree.
he
I would
can
agree.
do.
Yeah.
It was obviously good enough in that he won the series. It got the job done. But there are several instances where he will look back and think there were definitely things I could have improved on there. But in the Priest Mirror, even in the Paladin game where he hit the subdue on the Nosdormu, it was a fine base level play. And it got him the win there. But I think FroStee, I hope he looks back on that and tries to find subtle ways that he can improve and maybe just keep his calmness in these games. Because we were talking to him in his interview where I was saying he seems very cool, calm and collected while he's playing. Whereas he was saying on the inside, it's just a whole bundle of nerves. He is stressing out while playing these games. And I think that's something he needs to try and fix to improve these exact types of scenarios.
Yeah, and I think in general, maybe this win even helps with that because this win pushes him in a much safer, like, he's just fine. You know,
6 and 6.
Yeah. It's just like a fine score. He is not in real danger as far as maybe even impossible for relegation, right? He's
100%
safe.
impossible. 100%.
So maybe this win is just like, okay, let's relax. I believe FroStee is ready for us, though, so we'll see if he's there. FroStee, can you hear us?
No, I can't hear you at all.
Haha, I get it.
Nice one, mate.
Congratulations on the win. I just want to ask, like, how are you feeling throughout that whole series? Because honestly, we feel that it wasn't your cleanest play that we've ever seen from you, but you got the job done, which is really all that matters in the end. But just how was that series for you?
Oh, that series was taxing. That was one of the toughest series that I've played in quite a while. There were so many decision turns that I had to go through there that I'm literally just having a brain meltdown in the middle of a GM match after a really long day. And I'm just trying to sit here being like, all right, is there a lethal setup that I can get here?
Yeah, it's definitely scary. Has this win, obviously quite important, but do you think this win is going to have an impact next week in terms of maybe how you can be a bit more relaxed for next week? Because you're in no danger of relegation, right? So you're safe in that aspect. There's not that to worry about. So do you think you're just going to feel a bit more relaxed next week? Or is that something you're going to work on maybe?
No, in fact, I think I'll be feeling even more nervous because with this win, I'm actually in playoffs contention now. Like before, it was a little bit shaky, but, woo, everything's up in the air now.
Okay. Is there anything you thinking about planning on working on, trying to do any prep in terms of less actual gameplay of Hearthstone and more how do you approach being in these high-pressure scenarios?
I don't know. I'll have to think about it for a little bit. To be honest, I haven't really considered it all that much. Like, I think this series, I was actually, like, as the series went on, because, like, game one, I got trounced and I was, it was not even close.
Yeah.
I actually think that helped me a lot. I think coming in with lower expectations and just, playing the games it's supposed to be played really helps my mindset a lot. Whereas, when I come in, I have to say, all right, I have to win this match. That puts a bit of a damper on my play sort of style. So I expect nothing from and I will do well is apparently just the way that it goes.
That's okay.
It's a good mindset to have for sure. Who are you practicing with at the moment? Are there any shout-outs you want to give? Who's helping you get this success?
Well, I was practicing with a little bit of Geo a few weeks ago. I've been practicing a little bit with Impact as well. Just Zay as well, actually. Zay helped me test out just a whole bunch of OTK Paladin matchup, like especially against like Shaman. That one was just, that was a delight to try to just play him hours and hours upon end of just me getting life trinket in the face and me just going, all right, well, swell, this seems like a stellar matchup. And it's been a fairly small group of players. Mostly it's just been me doing just the repetitions on ladder sort of thing, but then I'll just pull people across to, help me practice like specific matchups where it's like, well, the ladder like KHS Replay just doesn't really give me a good idea on just how this is supposed to be played. So I'm just going to, figure this thing out myself. Because like a lot of matchups are pretty easy to figure out, it's like, well, I'm going to play this green card right here that has the number 1 on it, which just happens to be called Northshire Cleric. And
Well, you say that.
We'll see how it goes from there.
You say that, but you didn't do that in the Priest mirror. I think that's where you went wrong, mate.
You need to practice that matchup a little bit more.
Well, Alutemu is just a god at having cleric on 1, okay? I can't possibly beat that.
No, it was definitely a tense and crazy series overall, but it's done now, so spend the week, at least if not just jamming a million more games, just relaxing, as that might help you out for next week. But congratulations once again, mate. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, FroStee. And honestly, back obviously years ago now when I was competing, I 100% understand how he feels, because whenever I was in a tournament and I put pressure on myself going, I need to win this or it's going to look bad if I get knocked out early, blah, blah. Whereas the tournaments I actually did the best in, honestly, were the ones where I was like, I'm just going to play some Hearthstone.
Yeah,
that's it. That's literally was my mindset. And I believe, FroStee, definitely not the first player I've heard that from in terms of just mindset in general. I think Fino talked a lot about it in Season 1 when he was doing so well. It was because, maybe in not the correct words, he said he didn't care as much, but I think it's more he took a lighter approach to the game and just turned up to play some Hearthstone.
Well, he just shifted his perspective on what was important and realized making sure he was in a good, healthy headspace, getting his mental health in check is very important, or you do end up in these kind of scenarios where players are freaking out, subduing Null's door moves, just throwing away Priest games. Obviously not what FroStee was doing there, but there have been a lot of scenarios recently in a lot of different regions here in Grandmasters where players have been making huge blunders because they're too focused on one thing, they're stressing out and not able to get their head in the right place. So for FroStee there, I think if he can get in the chill zone, cool himself down a little bit, exactly, he should be a real contender for going into playoffs. Yeah,
and as he mentioned, and as you just mentioned then, he is in contention for playoffs. And a lot of the time, FroStee was very much FroStee's third from bottom. A lot of this season. So now he is actually up there and fighting for that top 4 playoff spot. But let's move on. I feel like today's